Hi, I'm Chef Deborah from Roca's Bakery in Greensboro, North Carolina, and welcome to our show today. You can visit us on our Facebook page and Instagram page and on our website at rocasbakery.com. Please visit our TV tab where you can watch season 1 and our pilot show of 13 shows. And we're baking all different types of delicious pastries and breads. And look at our menu and our online store. We do ship nationwide. So today we're going to be doing a series of 3 episodes that will translate into a wonderful chocolate dessert board. Similar to a meat charcuterie board, we're going to take that technique and we're going to translate that into a dessert board. So we're going to be doing a couple of different chocolate desserts, and then we're going to present and put together a chocolate dessert board so you can see how it's done. And so today we're going to start with a really nice Italian cake called a Torte Caprese cake, and it is gluten-free. It only uses almond flour, so those with a gluten sensitivity or with any type of a celiac disease process, you can enjoy this cake no problem at all. So there is a couple of different steps, but it's pretty much a one bowl cake. So it's easy to put together, but it does take a couple of steps to do. So just as a matter of listing the ingredients for everyone, we've got 6 ounces of bittersweet 60% chocolate. So I've chopped it up in medium chunks. You don't have to do it really small. It's just a matter to help the chocolate melt faster with the butter. And we've got a teaspoon of vanilla, and we've got 12 tablespoons of good quality unsalted butter. You do not want to use margarine in this recipe. You want to use good butter. We've got 4 egg whites at room temperature that we're going to whip with a half a cup of sugar. And then we've got 4 egg yolks, with our eggs that we've separated, the 4 egg yolks with also a half a cup of sugar. We've got 2 cups of almond flour. We've got 2 tablespoons of good quality cocoa, and then we've got a half a teaspoon of salt. So those are the ingredients, not many, but we're going to do different things to groups of these ingredients. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put the chocolate in a bowl. Now you can do this in the microwave. I like to do it on the stove top so that I have more control of the temperature when we're melting chocolate. And we're just going to put the chocolate and the butter together, and we're going to put it on the stove on top of a pan. And let me grab the pan so I can show you how to do this. The water is simmering, and so we're just going to place the bowl on top of the pan like this. We don't want the bowl to touch the water or the chocolate could burn. So we're going to set that over on the stove top for a couple of minutes, stirring every once in a while to make sure that it gets emulsified and the butter starts to melt and everything comes together. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start whipping our egg whites. So we've got our 4 egg whites at room temperature, and we're going to whip them until they become foamy. And when they start getting foamy, we're going to gradually add the 1/2 cup of sugar over the egg whites, and we're going to beat those until they become between a medium and a stiff peak. We don't want them to be really dry and really super stiff. We want to be able to fold them into the chocolate batter. So probably between a medium and a stiff peak on these. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And while that's whipping, I'm going to go ahead and sift these ingredients, and then we'll be able to start combining everything. So we'll be back in just a minute. The egg whites are done now, so we're going to take them off the beater, and we're going to use this same bowl to beat the egg yolks and the 1/2 cup of sugar together. So we have a total of 1 cup of sugar, but we've divided it between the yolks and the whites. So we'll use the same mixer. Get this dumped in here, and as you can see, it's a nice kind of between a medium and a stiff peak. So that's what we want. It's nice we don't have to wash the mixing bowl and be able to do this, all in the same bowl. But we're going to end up folding all of this together. We'll mix the chocolate and the dry ingredients together, and then we'll fold in the egg whites in the bowl. So it's a really easy cake to put together. Doesn't take too long at all, so and it doesn't take a lot of time to cool either. So as a matter of education here, I do have a 9-inch springform pan. It's what we bake cheesecake in. And I do have it sprayed with Baker's Joy, and I've lined the bottom with parchment paper to make sure that it doesn't stick. So, but if you don't have parchment paper, you can put a little bit of flour on top of your spray, or you could use butter, and that will work just fine. So we're going to put our 4 egg yolks in here, and then the 1/2 cup of sugar, and we're going to go ahead and beat these until it comes to what we call a ribbon stage. It will be light pale yellow, and it will be really thick and creamy. So that's what we're going to do with this, and so we'll be back as soon as that is done, and we'll start putting the cake together.
Cut.
So our egg yolks and sugar have come to the ribbon stage, and this is what it should look like. Nice, light, and pale, and ribbony. So when it falls back into itself in the bowl, you know you've got it to the right consistency. Let's just mix this. KitchenAid has this little divot in the bottom of the bowl, so we want to make sure that there's no egg yolk that hasn't been incorporated. We're going to set that aside for just a minute. We're going to put the 1 teaspoon of good vanilla into the chocolate and just stir it up. We wanted to do that when it was the cocoa or the chocolate was cool a little bit, so that it didn't take the flavor out of the vanilla. And so what we're going to do, some room here, is we're going to gradually incorporate the cocoa into the yolk mixture by about 1/3. So we don't want to dump the whole thing in. We want to gradually add it, and then just stir it in together, which is another reason why we mix the chocolate and the butter together first, so that we set it aside and it's cooling, so we don't scramble our egg yolks. We want to be sure it's cool enough that we can add them to the eggs, so we don't have to go through the process of tempering the eggs as well. But since the egg yolks have the sugar in them, it's kind of the egg protein has been protected by the sugar a little bit, but we still don't want to take a chance of, after going to all the trouble of melting the chocolate and then scrambling the eggs and then have to start all over again. So we don't have to worry about beating this too hard. We don't want to beat it really hard, but just, to incorporate this very well. Nice smooth mixture. So we're going to set that aside for just a minute, and we're going to go ahead and sift our dry ingredients together. Now, if you don't have one of these mesh screens, you can certainly use a whip, but when you're dealing with almond flour, I like to push it through a sieve, only because the almond flour tends to clump a little, and you want to get all those clumpy pieces out when you start incorporating it into the batter. So we're going to combine the rest of our dry ingredients, our cocoa and our salt, and we're just going to go ahead on a parchment paper, or if you don't have parchment paper at home, sift it over a bowl large enough to accommodate the 2 cups of flour. And as you can see, all the lumps here, so we just want to push that through. So we don't want those lumps in our cake because they won't incorporate well. So we just want to push it all through. We don't want to throw any of it away because it'll alter our recipe. So every last little bit. And then we can just, that's why I love parchment paper, we can just take this and just add a little bit at a time, about 1/3, 1/3, and then 1/3. And we're just going to go ahead and gently fold this in. And then when we get all of this incorporated, we'll fold in the egg whites. And it'll be ready to bake. So it comes together pretty quickly. There's just a couple of steps you have to do, melting the chocolate and that kind of thing. Now you can certainly melt the chocolate in the microwave. You just need to microwave it on 50% so that you don't burn the chocolate, and 50% power. And then stir it frequently to make sure that you're getting everything mixed together well, and that sometimes in the microwave you'll get hot spots like on the bottom of the cup where the chocolate can burn and it will seize and get hard, and then you have to throw the whole thing away. So that's why I like to do it over the stove. You get a little bit more control. And we're just ready for our last addition of our dry ingredients. So we're going to take about 1/3 of our egg whites, and what we're going to do is we're going to what we call lighten the batter. So we don't have to worry about deflating the egg whites so much. Let me show you here. We can go ahead and stir it until it's incorporated so that we're lightening the batter. We're not actually doing a true folding technique. That's what we're looking for. So we'll go ahead and add another 1/3 of the egg whites. And then we'll do a true fold, which is going down the center to the bottom and over the top like this. I like to take a wrap it or wrap the spatula around the side. So we don't want to see, when we're done folding, we don't want to see any egg white. We want it to be a nice medium chocolate color. We don't want to see any streaks of egg white in it. So that means that everything is not fully incorporated. So there is no leavening agent, as you could tell from the recipe, as far as there's no baking powder or baking soda in this, so that the egg whites and the whipped egg yolks, it's what gives it its height. So you don't want to, you don't want to, beat it to death, so you're deflating the egg whites. So now we've got our batter done, and we're just going to go ahead and pour it in our pan and level it off, and we'll put it in the oven at 325, like I said, for about 45 to 50 minutes, depending on your oven. It might take a little less or it might take a little bit longer, but just start checking it at 40 minutes. So we're back with our finished cooled cake, and as you can see, it doesn't raise real tall because it is a torte. So a torte typically is like a single layer cake that you would use, you would make in a stacked cake. So you're looking at about a 2-inch high cake, but the tortes are typically a lot richer and a little more dense than a cake that has a leavening agent like baking powder or baking soda in it. And it does have a nice crackly top, as you can see, and you can press a little bit, and this is from baking and just slightly moving it. The cake is still slightly warm, and it's great actually to eat it slightly warm with some vanilla bean ice cream or some coffee ice cream. Is absolutely delicious. This doesn't require any specific decoration. You can top this with a layer of chocolate ganache, but I find that the cake itself is so rich that you really just want a dusting of powdered sugar. Maybe if you want to serve it with some fresh fruit and some whipped cream, or like I said, a scoop of ice cream, that's what you do. Because the cake itself is the statement. It's not what's on top of it or beside it. The cake itself is the statement. So I like to put a nice good coating of powdered sugar just to kind of offset with a little bit of sweetness on the top of the cake to the bitterness of the chocolate. Even though the chocolate is sweet, it is a bittersweet chocolate. So it does have a little bit of a tang to it. So you want to, when the cake gets put in your mouth and you hit the top of your tongue and the top part of your mouth with this sugar, you get that burst of sweetness, and then you close your mouth and you get that delicious, rich, slightly dense cake and all that bittersweet chocolate, and it's just a really, really nice balance. So basically a snow cloud of powdered sugar, and that's our Torte Caprese. So in this episode, we're going to be doing a couple more recipes for our chocolate board. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the other recipe. We're going to put our Torte Caprese aside to go completely cool, and we're going to make chocolate salami. So we've got here 12 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. You don't need to use any, a good quality chocolate chip. I wouldn't use an off-brand, let's say that. Just use a regular like Nestle's or Ghirardelli or something like that chocolate chip, because chocolate is the main ingredient again in this. We have 6 tablespoons of butter. We've got 1/4 cup of brewed coffee that's been cooled. We're going to zest half of an orange, and on this sheet here I've already toasted. We've got 2 5-inch long regular sized biscottis that have been chopped up a little bit into like bite-sized pieces. We have 1/2 cup of slivered or sliced almonds. a 1/4 cup of coarsely chopped pecans, and then we have a 1/4 cup of pistachio nuts. Now, if you don't like pecans, you would want to use walnuts. By all means, just coarsely chop the walnuts. Put them on a sheet pan at a 350-degree oven and toast them for about 6 minutes or so, 6 to 7 minutes, until you can. They're fragrant. You can smell them a little bit, and then just bring them out and let them cool. So that's all the ingredients in this chocolate salami. Very simple. So we're going to melt the chocolate and the butter together like we did for the Torte Caprese. So we're going to add the butter into the chocolate chips. We're going to put it on the stove, or again, if you want to do it in the microwave, just be mindful and stir frequently on 50% power. So we're going to melt these chocolate chips, and then we're going to come back and combine all of these ingredients, and we're going to put them in the refrigerator to cool a little bit until it's stiff enough that we can mold it and roll it into a log. So we'll melt this, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So our chocolate has been melted, and as you can see, it's stiff, but we're going to be adding this 1/4 cup of coffee. And we're going to add the zest of half of an orange. I love the smell of orange zest. It smells so great. And it's great in chocolate too. There's very few people I've met that doesn't like chocolate and orange, but they are around. Again, when we're zesting, we don't want to zest down into the pith. We just want to get the very zest off of it. That'll give it just a nice light orange flavor. And we're just going to go ahead and just gently mix together. And then we're just going to put all of our toasted ingredients into the mix. We're going to cover it with plastic wrap and stick it in the cooler until it is stiff enough to start molding into a log. So depending on how cool your refrigerator is, it could be an hour to 2 hours. If you want to do a quick set, you could put this in an ice bath, cover it with plastic, and set it in a larger bowl that's filled with crushed ice, and stick it in the refrigerator, and then about every 10 minutes go in and stir it. And that's kind of a quick set. And then we're just going to go ahead and just put all of our toasted ingredients in and mix it up really well. If you have some crumbs like we do here on the sheet pan, we don't want these fine crumbs in there. So just kind of pick around them so that we don't have like the cookie dust, we call it, the cookie dust in there. We're just getting the chunks of cookie, because it will make the salami a little bit drier. So as you can see, it's kind of a wet ingredient now that the coffee's been incorporated. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this in plastic. We're going to put this in the cooler until it's firm enough to roll into a log, and we'll be back to dust it and roll it in powdered sugar and make it look like a real salami. So we'll see you back here in just a few minutes. So our salamis are cold, they're hard, and I've shaped them into logs like this, wrapped in saran wrap. Just looks like a salami without the white stuff on it. So we're going to actually roll this in powdered sugar. So this is what you can make them into: one large one, or you can make them into 2 smaller ones. You can make them thinner depending on how big you want your salami to be. You can make them half this width and diameter. So whatever you want to do with your salami is perfectly fine, because it's your dessert board. So make them whatever size you want to. I've made mine a little bit larger. And so what I'd like to do is sift some powdered sugar over it, just because it gets all the lumps out and it's a nice smooth finish. Now remember, when you the chocolate will melt if you handle it too much with your bare finger, so just be aware of that. But you want to get a good nice coating everywhere. If you want to work with the chocolate like this, put latex gloves on if you have some around the house. That will help prevent the heat from your fingers from translating onto the chocolate surface a little bit better. It won't stop it altogether, but it will be easier to handle and it won't melt as quickly when you're working with it. So let me grab a knife real quick. Let's cut into our salami and see what we have here. I always thought the end piece was kind of a chef's delight because it never cuts off smoothly. But as you can see, inside of our salami it looks just beautiful. And here's a little piece, and like I said, the end piece is always the chef's delight. And then get a nice serrated knife and you can slice this salami, and I'm not going to slice any more because I want to be able to present it on our chocolate board. So we're just going to leave it like that. But this is what the inside looks like, and it's actually a beautiful picture of all the goodness that's inside, and it will look really nice on your chocolate board. So we'll clean up and we'll be back to work on our chocolate bowls, which if you've never made, it's a fun project for the kids to do and to help you with in the kitchen. So we'll see you back in just a few minutes. So we're back for our third little recipe for this episode. We're going to make chocolate bowls, and there's a couple of different ways that we can do it. All the rage during COVID shutdowns was the cocoa bombs, and I'm sure if you were on the internet or on Facebook, anywhere, you heard about cocoa bombs. So this is basically a chocolate mold that we used for cocoa bombs. So we're going to paint the insides of these molds with chocolate, and I've already melted our chocolate. We've done that in the last couple of segments in this episode with our other recipes, so you know how to do that. But I wanted to talk about the different chocolate that I've got here today. We've got our traditional dark chocolate colettes here. And again, a colette is different than chocolate chip. You want to get a chocolate not a chocolate chip to use in this in the bowls because it's too soft. The chocolate chips you buy in the store in the bag for your cookies has additives in it, and we don't want that. We want a pure chocolate that will harden and when it'll snap, so you get that good snap of a chocolate bar bite. And you can use the Ghirardelli bar chocolate and melt that, chop it like we've done here for our recipe for the Torte Caprese. So today I've got a dark colette. So another new chocolate colette that Calibet has come out with is the ruby chocolate. It's a beautiful pink color, and we use it a lot in Valentine's Day when we make our candies for Valentine's Day. And then we also, Calibet has come out now with the caramel colettes, which is really great because you can make all kinds of wonderful desserts with these caramels. We're going to make shells with these three. So I've got the caramel, the dark chocolate, and the ruby chocolate melted. And I'm also going to show you, if you don't want to buy a form like this, how to do it with a balloon. So that you can make your little bowls with a balloon, or you can buy the pre-made chocolate bowls. They're about this big in the freezer section. Most better grocery stores carry them, and they're probably maybe 3-ounce cups. And those work well, you know, for doing a chocolate dessert board like this. If you don't want to have the kids involved with dipping the balloons, which I think is kind of fun, and they can also paint the molds. You can buy them already pre-made for your board. So let's go ahead. We're going to start painting. We're just going to go do 2 of each so you can see what the process is. And so we're just going to take a good bit amount, and we're just going to paint the inside. Now this is a silicone mold, and it's food grade silicone. So you don't have to worry, you don't have to spray it or anything. When it hardens, it'll come out just perfect. So we just want to take it and brush it up the sides so we get a good coating. We don't want it to be super thin going up the sides, but we will do probably 3 coats. So when we get the initial paint done on this, we're going to go ahead and put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. It just takes literally minutes to set, and you can go ahead and paint it again and get a nice thick coat. And it goes really fast, so it's super easy to do, and it's not time consuming unless you're doing a very large dessert board and you're making it for 20 people. Then of course you would be doing a few of these if that's what you wanted to do on your board. But we made a lot of cocoa bombs during the COVID shutdowns in a lot of places, and thousands and thousands of them actually. But these make nice little dessert board treats. We're going to fill these on our dessert board today with a chocolate mousse. We will not make this here because I've already done the pastry cream in a previous episode on our Southern sweet treats for our banana pudding. So you can do that and just add 4 ounces of melted chocolate to the basic vanilla pastry cream recipe. And then add in 2 cups of sweetened whipped cream and you have your mousse. So we're going to go ahead and pop these into the cooler. Oh, I see that we got a little bit of a couple little holes on the side. So make sure you look at it from all different angles because sometimes those little holes hide from you. So that's what it looks like. And so we're going to put this in the cooler and let this harden so we can do a couple more layers and then we're going to work on the balloons. Okay, so we're back. We've got our mold, our chocolate molds in the cooler cooling. So we're going to show you how to do this with a balloon. Now this was the smallest balloon that I could find because we live out here in the country, so our options aren't as great as you would if you were living in a city. But I think a smaller balloon would probably work better. But I want to show you the technique so that you know how to do it. So you don't want your chocolate bowl to be any bigger than probably 3 inches for your chocolate board. But if you are doing this for a home dessert without doing a chocolate board, but just doing a chocolate bowl with mousse or fresh fruit and whipped cream or something like that, you can certainly use a balloon bigger than this, or this size, you know, a bigger balloon, and it would serve 1 person for an average dessert bowl size. So that would be, you know, a great option. So we just basically take the balloon in our melted chocolate and we're just going to swirl it around. And again, this is a fun thing for the kids to do. Dip it to the side and get like a little tulip design on the side if you want. But this is going to be a big bowl. And we're just going to lay it on the parchment paper. If you have wax paper, go ahead and lay that if you don't have parchment paper. But don't put it directly on the baking pan because the chocolate could stick to it. So, and we're going to do another one just so that you can see. And just dip it like that, and as even as you can. With smaller balloons, it's easier to see. And then we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it harden. We'll dip it again and let it harden. And then all you do to release the chocolate from the side of the balloon is just take a little pin and stick in the top of the balloon and let the air out and peel the balloon right out. It's kind of like the silicone mold that we've used in the other chocolate bowls. So very easy thing, and the kids, this is a fun thing for the kids to do. The chocolate's not hot, they won't get burned. Mom and dad or aunt or grandma can, or big sister or brother can pop the balloon for them, and they have made their own chocolate bowl. So it's a great kids thing to do. So we're gonna go ahead and put these in the cooler, and we'll be back in a little bit after everything's hardened up. We'll do a couple more layers and we'll be showing you how the chocolate bowls turned out. So we'll see you back in just a few minutes. So we're back with our chocolate cups that we've let be cooling in the refrigerator. I put 3 coats on these, and all you have to do with these silicone molds is just pull them back and pull them out, and they're just nice and beautiful. So what I've done is I've heated a porcelain plate on the stove top just until it's warm enough to melt the chocolate. And what we're going to do is we're going to just do this, and and it just makes a nice edge to it, so that we're not, you don't have all the raggedness that you have around here. It melts it right off. So you have a nice smooth edge on it. Makes it look a lot prettier, a lot more professional. And you're going to see the inside looks a little craggy, but there's nothing that you can do about that. You're going to fill it anyway, so nobody's really going to see it. So if you only want to do like a couple thin layers, so your chocolate shell isn't quite so thick, absolutely can do that. It's your chocolate party, so you can do whatever you want to. I'm going to turn this over here and use the back side so we don't get the chocolate and the caramel on that one. So this is really super easy to do. Now, just as a side note, talking about chocolate shells, this is how we make our cocoa bombs. So if you're ready to do a cocoa bomb, you just put your cocoa in here. If you want to do marshmallows, chopped mint, whatever, and then you glue them together like this. Make sure they're wet and glue them together and let them sit, and you have a cocoa bomb. Super easy to do. So that's just a little side note here for winter when it's coming up and making cocoa bombs. So as you can see, I unmolded one of the balloons and I dipped it in the pink chocolate as well, so you kind of get a marbled kind of look on it and a little tulip. We don't want to, at least I wouldn't want to, lose the decorative edging on this to make it look more like a tulip. So we're just going to leave it like that. And again, these are kind of large for a dessert board, but you can certainly use that. As you can see, we just cut a little hole in the top, and for this one we're going to break that little tip off. And then you gently pull the sides away from the balloon. And the balloon does have a nice stick to it. So if your kids are helping you with this, you might need to help them take the balloon out, because it doesn't just fall out. If you can hear it, you have to pull it out. But it's an easy way to do it if you don't, like I said, if you don't have a chocolate molds or you don't want to use a chocolate mold. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and cut this and make it even, or more even. So, you know, this is very pliable, so you can do just about anything with it. And so you have a more even bowl look rather than a tulip effect on it. And so there's our chocolate bowls. So we're done with our preparation for these elements for our chocolate dessert board. So when we come back in our next episode, we're going to be doing a couple different cookies for our board, and simple, easy to do, easy to put together, but will be delicious for your guests and your family. So this is Chef Deborah from Roca's Bakery in Greensboro, North Carolina. Please visit us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also visit us on our website at rocasbakery.com. Please check out our TV tab where you can watch season 1 and our pilot show. And on our online store, we ship nationwide just about anything that you would want. So we look forward to seeing you in our next episodes. This is Chef Deborah signing off. Bon appetit.